Are you looking for reliable, high-capacity power, whether you're in the backcountry or off-grid? Or maybe you're looking for a simple and practical power source to have on hand at home for when the power goes out. Whatever the case may be, if you're looking for practical power, then look no further than the Heatcure 600-watt power station. This thing's a monster, and we're going to explore it today. This power station has a massive capacity of 168,000 milliamp hours. That's huge. The power station really doesn't take up that much space. It's 8.5 by 8.5 by 14 inches, and the total weight on it is 18 pounds, which might sound kind of heavy, but most power stations of this capacity are pretty darn heavy. That's why I hauled it in on the ATV. So let's take a look at some of these features. So this is the front display. We've got the DC on or off. Now, what the DC means is these ports right here. We've got DC in, which is the DC port you plug in here to charge the unit, and then you've got two DC outs. So if you have two different devices requiring DC power, you can go ahead and plug those both in simultaneously and power them both. Also on the DC powered side are 3 USB out ports. So those are these 3 ports here. These are USB out. We also have a USB-C in and out, which is right here. So if you have a USB-C powered phone, you can plug it in right here. It's going to draw charge from the power station to your phone. But if you have a solar panel that has a USB out, you can plug the solar panel's USB out to the power station's USB in to draw power from the solar panels to the power station. And I'm going to put a link in the description below where you can pick up the solar panels as well that will work with this power station. It also has a 12-volt power out. So if you have some type of 12-volt powered device, you can plug it directly in here and it will draw power from the power station to that device. So for instance, you may have a little 12-volt pump for your AirPad. You can go ahead and plug that puppy in right here, turn it on, blow up your air mattress, and use the power that's directly on board with the power station. You'll notice on the front there's also one more button, which is AC power on and off. So we'll go ahead, hold that down. You'll notice that light becomes illuminated, and now we've got AC power. So we've got the AC powered on, but I've still got the DC powered on. So I'm going to go ahead and power off DC by holding it down. That light goes off. There's no sense in running power to any of these terminals unless I have something plugged into it and I'm going to be drawing power from it. Now, you can run AC and DC power devices at the same time. So for instance, if I wanted to charge my phone and tablet out of these USB ports, I could go ahead and plug those in, draw power from the station while also running something on AC power, like maybe a coffee maker, so that I could sit down, make a nice fresh cup of coffee, and then have a phone that's fully charged up so I can read my morning news. Now the AC ports are located on the back of the unit. So we've got 4 total AC outs. We have 2 that are not grounded. So these are for any devices that don't have that third prong on them. And then we have 2 outlets that do have grounds. So you can use all 4 simultaneously if you would like, as long as you don't exceed the maximum output on the unit. But no need to worry about that because Heatcure has a number of built-in safety modes so that if you are drawing more power than the unit's able to put out, it will automatically turn itself off to protect both the power station and your gear. Now on the AC side of the power, we also have the cooling fans. Now these fans will engage automatically. You have to remember, all batteries, whether it's a small little battery in a a flashlight or it's a power bank or even a battery bank, they're all going to heat up a little bit as they discharge energy. And this power station is going to turn these fans on automatically to keep the operating temperature cool. Now the power station does come with an emergency light, which can be really handy if you misplace your headlamp or your flashlight. So to turn it on, you go ahead, hold it in for a couple seconds. It turns on. It's going to be at 50% brightness. So if you want to increase the illumination, go ahead and tap it twice. That's going to increase the illumination. And if you have to send an SOS signal, go ahead, tap it twice again. That's going to engage SOS mode. So hopefully you can get rescuers' attention or maybe someone who's passing by. And then to turn the light back off again, go ahead, just hold it down. And that's going to power it off. You can always tell what side of the power station is powered on through the display. So right now we have the power station completely powered off. We're going to go ahead, turn on DC power, and then you're going to notice under output we have two things listed, USB and DC. Now if we want AC power, hold that down for a couple seconds. AC power is going to come on and it's going to be listed right here under the outputs. Now one of the important things to remember is that there's two power sources that you need to turn off when you're done using the unit to conserve the maximum battery power. So you have to turn off DC and that will take away these prompts, but then you notice AC is still running and you go ahead and you turn him off. He goes away from the output list. And then the screen goes blank to indicate that there's no power running. It would have been nice if there would be some type of master switch that you could flick on to power both simultaneously. So you just have to get in the habit of remembering to turn two things off if you're planning on running AC and DC simultaneously. So let's talk about some nerdy stuff now. Let's talk about some of the safety features and some of the internal workings of the power unit. It is short circuit protected. Now what a short circuit is when power unintentionally takes a shorter path than the wiring is designed and crosses over, which kind of dysregulates the circuit and can cause damage to the unit. This guy is built with breakers and fuses so that if a short circuit's detected, it goes ahead, opens the circuit, kills the power, and saves the unit. So that's really nice to know. The Heatcure power station also has over voltage or over current protection, which what that means is that if you plug something in that attempts to draw too much power from the unit that exceeds the 600 watt capacity, it's going to go ahead and say and power itself down before the unit or the thing that's plugged into it gets damaged. Now the overcurrent protection isn't just limited to one device that draws too much power. It also regulates the collective output of all the power sources across AC and DC sides of the power box. So if we have too many things that draw too much power plugged in at once, instead of melting down and damaging everything, this bad boy is just going to power itself right off. The two fans on the front that click on if the unit gets too hot also are heat protected. So if the power station itself becomes too hot where damage may occur, the power station goes ahead and just shuts itself down until it cools off. The Heatcure power station also has overcharge protection. So if you plug it in to charge it and you forget to unplug it, the power station is going to know when it's reached 100% charge, and it's going to go ahead and kill the power supply to the charge, so that way the battery doesn't become overcharged, which protects the life and the longitudinal expectancy of the battery. The power station also has low battery protection. Now you may not be aware, but if you drain a battery to 0%, that's really hard on the battery and definitely impacts the life expectancy of that battery. AC power is going to draw power more quickly than DC power, so when you're using an AC powered device, when the battery gets to 20% life, it's going to cut the power to the AC side of things. And on the DC side, when the power station reaches 3% life, it's going to go ahead and cut power to the DC devices, so that way the battery never reaches zero, so you have a chance to recharge before you cause any damage. The Heatcure power station charges incredibly fast when it's plugged in using this DC in, which plugs into this port right here and plugs into your wall at home. It fully charges within about 6 hours, which is super, super fast. Power station also comes with a car adapter for 12-volt charging. This is the same DC in, and this cable plugs into a 12-volt connection. The Heatcure power station has got no problems handling, operating, and powering multiple devices at once. Buying the Heatcure power station really gives me peace of mind because I know that it comes with a 24-month warranty. So if anything goes wrong with this, I don't have to worry about it. And it also comes with a limited liability for the devices that are plugged into it. Just kind of like how you see when you buy a surge bar and it'll say, you know, protected up to $50,000 or something like that. That means that if you're using that surge bar and you have your computer plugged into it and the surge bar fails, the manufacturer of that surge bar will pay to replace the equipment that their malfunction destroyed. That's the same kind of deal with Heatcure. If anything goes wrong with this device, that limited liability is going to cover the devices that are plugged into it. So it just gives you a little bit extra peace of mind knowing that you're protected.